Oh, I've bugged it up already. So what we've got is David did a great job, and David's a sort of consummate, he's on top of his topic. What we've got is something slightly different. We've got an amplified MC for a start. I hope that's working out for you. We've got some TED-style talks. So if you're familiar with TED, they're 10 or 15-minute talks offering a variety of perspectives on SNOMED CT, SNOMED clinical terms. So we've got 8 presenters, or 9 if you count me, each 20 minutes long. The format is 15-minute talk, 5-minute questions. I noticed the questions this morning were actually quite pointed, quite difficult ones, so I'll be cutting those short and keeping to time. I'm sure you won't mind, please don't take offence. I'm hoping to come out of this exercise with a lot more friends than I came in, and it's really nice looking down the number of registrations. It's an absolutely fantastic number. Thank you so much for making the effort to come here. I only recognised about a third of the names. That's really good. A lot of you won't know me. So I'm Alastair Kenworthy. I work for the Ministry of Health. Sometimes you'll get a round of boos at that point. I'm a member of the HL7 board. The Ministry of Health actually supports HL7 New Zealand and is very, very pleased to see the work that HL7 New Zealand is doing internationally to connect us with the international standards community. So we do have we've got some really good presenters here. We've got 2 presenters joining us from Australia. They're online at the moment through GoToMeeting. So I'd just like to thank the IHGSTO, International Health Terminology Standards Development Organisation, for making GoToMeeting available to us. So David made a compelling case this morning for HL7 fire. And as Corey pointed out, New Zealand, regardless of what Lithuania has done, the New Zealand government has been the first around the world to actually endorse this standard, which is only a draft standard, and recommended that people use it in a cautious fashion as part of production systems. So that's a fairly strong statement. So FHIR is the promised open API for connected health, or the digital health ecosystem. But I'm here to talk about SNOMED CT. So SNOMED CT is merely, I'm suggesting, the boundless descriptive space where content is created. The meaning in electronic health records comes from terminology, from SNOMED clinical terms, which is a system of 400,000 clinical concepts over 1 million terms, which can be composed into an effectively infinite, I'll say, set of descriptions that you can attach to clinical records to be as descriptive as you like. There has been a vast amount of money invested in this terminology. SNOMED is not developed through volunteer efforts, it's actually an engineered exercise. Its ambitions are very bold, to be a universal system of terminology for health. They talk about a global language for healthcare. And estimates are that $200 million has been invested in this thing. So why SNOMED CT? Well, it's for trusted, actionable information. So the National Health IT Board, which I work closely with, talks about trusted information, patients, clinicians trusting the information they're working with. SNOMED makes it actionable. So you have precise descriptions of conditions so you can act on them. And this is a point of care concern. And if you look around the circle of care, it touches all those points. So applications, if you're building applications in any of these spaces, they should be SNOMED enabled. There's a cancer health information strategy which will be published by the Ministry of Health later this month, and that is the first strategy document, national strategy document I've seen that actually specifically requires SNOMED CT as one of its principles for applications in that space, for effective management of cancer patients, you need to be capturing much better information at point of care. So, you may be wondering if I was going to tell you what SNOMED CT is. And this, to be honest, was the hardest slide for me to produce. SNOMED CT is actually a vast network of terms and definitions, if you like, which obtain their meaning from their relationships with other concepts. So I'm going to take you through one of these as an example, and I thought I was on fairly safe ground in picking this, which is vitreous floaters. So I don't know, some of you may be affected by this as you get a little older. You find in your field of vision that these little floaty things are appearing in front of your eyes, and this is going. Oh, it is? It is? Cool. And then I remembered that Mike Mayer was here from Timaru, and he's like an eye guy. I should have picked up. How many people here are clinicians, by the way? Who are medical folk? Right, okay. And IT folk? Yeah. And who thinks they're both? Oh, right. Yeah, we're going to do the two for you guys. Okay, so vitreous floaters. I was trying to distract you there for a moment from my example. That number there, don't worry about that. That's the only number. That's the only bit of code, if you like, in this presentation. And that's the only time I'm going to say code, because SNOMED is not about coding. So in the grand system of SNOMED CT, you can create synonyms for conditions that are represented by concepts, and you can say basically this is a type of disorder of the vitreous body, so that's the eye, basically, the eyeball. And the finding site is a vitreous body structure. There probably aren't too many of them. And if in a electronic health record, maybe you've gone along to the doctor and you said, I've got these things, and they record that you've got a history of vitreous floaters, and the associated finding is vitreous floaters, so you can drive any sort of health literacy off that. You can create a referral that points to that. You can basically go along to that next contact with the health system with them understanding quite explicitly what that first contact was. So in New Zealand, what use have we made of SNOMED CT? SNOMED's been around for a while. Well, what have we done? Well, our first foray into SNOMED was into the New Zealand medicines terminology, which has been a great success. It was developed about 5 years ago, and it underpins the New Zealand Universal List of Medicines, the New Zealand Formulary, and it's implemented nationally in the community e-prescriptions broker, the New Zealand e-prescription service, and the hospital electronic prescribing and administration systems, which are being implemented now. I think the latest implementation is in Canterbury DHB. However, the thing that excites me most is the work that New Zealand's done in emergency care. And I'm going to say we're world leading in this space. Nobody else in the IHDSDO has contradicted this when I've told them that we're world leading based on what I've seen. So this fellow who couldn't be with us today is Dr. Tom Morton, who works at Nelson Marlborough DHB. They've got two big hospitals there, or two medium-sized hospitals, Nelson and Wairau. He worked with a group called the ED-IT group. It was a national group of emergency department clinical directors, and they said, we're going to implement common information systems with common terminology for coding what comes through the door of an ED. They picked SNOMED to represent those patient conditions they received. He went away and built an application that showed that in one of the fastest paced environments, which is an emergency department, you can actually capture near real-time information using a structured system. But even better than that, we've got ambulance services getting ready to roll out an application called EPRF, or the Electronic Patient Report Form, which in an even more fast-paced environment is capturing information about the paramedics' clinical impressions of the patient and the interventions they perform in real time, basically, as they treat the patient. Now, there are other applications brewing where we've felt emboldened with the successes around emergency care. So the new directions seem to be in the referral space. Electronic referrals have been pretty successful around the country, from primary care to secondary. We're now looking to attach more structure to that, so that the referrer can capture a clinical impression at electronic triage. You can capture a more refined impression, if you like, at first special assessment. It becomes further evolved. And there is a secondary use of that data in being able to measure the patient journey. You know, how much time did somebody have to wait for treatment for this condition? Was there equity in the way that their referral was treated based on the condition and who they were? Now, I don't even know what this is. Maybe there's somebody who knows what this is. It's really lovely when you discover that there's a little pocket of SNOMED implementation activity that you weren't aware of previously. So this is the morbidity audit and logbook tool that surgeons are using. So that's interesting. So the message from all this is that SNOMED implementation is basically an unstoppable force. The National Health IT Board has not really used the term electronic health records before, but you're going to be hearing a lot more about electronic health records, a national electronic health record system. Are we videoing this? Maybe we'll hold before it goes back to my bosses. But you definitely will be. And these systems will be SNOMED powered. Just the way the Cancer Health Information Strategy is making a point of SNOMED, everything else is too. I expect that the new health strategy, which updates the health strategy from 15 years ago, so this is a national document from that the Ministry of Health puts out, will make explicit mention of SNOMED. So the Ministry of Health, what's our contribution to this? Well, we basically license SNOMED from the international body for the benefit of the whole sector. So I get asked this question. I love answering this question. What does it cost somebody to use SNOMED in New Zealand? What does it cost a vendor to build SNOMED into their products instead of internationally? And I say, well, it's free. It's free. It's licensed for you by the New Zealand government, and you can build products, you can use it in New Zealand, you can use it in 27 member countries, and they are the big ones. They are the UK, they are the US, they're Australia, they're Singapore, Hong Kong, Brazil is a new member. It's a fantastic product. Just in the last year, we've been able to gauge the level of interest in SNOMED in that 30 people, which is actually quite a lot, from New Zealand have registered and completed an online education course, which was a fairly meaty sort of a course, and people will be able to tell you about that. Now, the really exciting thing is that the IHTSDO has noticed us, and we've got Liara Tutina on the line who's based in Australia. She's the Customer Relations Manager for IHTSDO for Asia Pacific. New Zealand next year will host the annual SNOMED conference, which normally attracts 300 delegates from e-health programs around the world. It will be in Wellington. It's a week long, it's got a 2-day expo. It is a fantastic opportunity to showcase Kiwi solutions, Kiwi products to the world. I can't emphasise what a great opportunity this is. And we're using the interest in this thing in the lead up to the event to drive a lot more implementation. So our Minister of Health, Honourable Dr. Jonathan Coleman, made this statement in our proposal document. Come to New Zealand and engage with our health community to develop and refine SNOMED CT for the benefit of all peoples. I love statements like that. It's a really passionate statement. So once we put in our proposal, we had the head honchos from IHG SDO come to these shores to see whether we had the facilities, and they were very pleased with what they saw. So the event will be at Te Papa in Wellington. This is Don Sweet, who's the chief executive. I spent 3 days with this guy. I cannot believe the ideas he is bubbling with. This guy has a plan, a vision that will see this thing become bigger than ever.